Today's exercise will be monochrome again, and this is the back view of the cast. You've already done the front view, hopefully. You can do them out of sequence. You can do the back view first, doesn't really matter. But anyway, let's get started. And how do we start every monochrome? We usually want to slap a little burn umber on there. I know it's not all that exciting, but let's just get down to the brass tacks here, as they say. Not sure who they is, but I have heard that term many times. All right, let's just use a bigger brush because this is not really necessary. You don't want to use some little tiny brush trying to cover a canvas. I just like painting the back, side of your wall in your room or something. It's nothing fancy. Okay. You guys feeling good out there today? I hope so. I know I am. Every day is a good day when you get to paint. It's all about the love. Take a couple deep breaths. Some little ujjayi breathing, which is kind of a yoga thing, but try to breathe deep. Relax, get that oxygen going to your brain, get ready to make some serious decision making and problem solving, and you want your brain working well, oxygen getting in there, everything getting ready to roll. Okay, so I think that's going to suffice for that. Clean my brush a little bit. Put it back over its holding bend there. And as that sets up, let's ponder a little bit what we want to accomplish here. We talked a little bit about that in the intro, our motivation behind cast painting, by the difference between site size and comparative measurement and all these things that you guys are going to be coming from different backgrounds. Try not to be too dogmatic about the background you've chosen. You may be at the Florence Academy right now. You may be at Angel Academy or something like that. And you may be studying heavy duty site size method. And I think there's going to be a lot to be garnered from that. And you'll probably benefit greatly. And there probably will be a time when you'll have to add to that a little bit more of the comparative measurement, which is again more the realm of invention, manipulation, and depending on what career you choose to go into. Many of you probably don't know yet, or maybe you have grandiose ideas of where you want to go, but have not yet really been out there and seen what it's like in these different industries. So I don't want to deter you too much from anything, and I want you to dream big, and I want you to really have huge aspirations of incredible accomplishments, because I know you guys will do just fine, and you will go on to wonderful things. I have no doubt. I've always been a big dreamer and always expected great things from myself, and always work really hard to try to deliver on that for me, just so that I can be a whole person and I can feel like I'm whole. And it's very important. You put pressure on yourself to accomplish certain things, and ultimately you start to realize that you are the one that's got to deliver the goods. You're the one that's got to make it happen. Your teachers can't make it happen for you. Your school can't make it happen for you. They can facilitate, trying to get you as close as possible as far as your skills and stuff, and the rest of it's left up to you. So a lot of you that are out there trying to figure out what you want to do, don't worry too much about it. Get skilled. Skills you can always plug yourself into somebody else's vision. DreamWorks, Disney, Pixar. But that's where, again, the comparative measurement's going to kick in, is when you go work for guys like that or companies like that. It's all going to be invention and manipulation and no reference, bad reference, and you're going to be working a lot from your ability to have memorized huge volumes of information. And so heavy technical, site size type driven exercises will not be of a lot of help. You'll have good dexterity and you'll have a good ability to manipulate, but what you see, or draw what you see. But if you take away what you see and you don't have anything to see, can you pull information out of the deep pockets of your gray matter, your brain, and bring it up to the surface so that you can execute believable information that doesn't exist, or create other worlds that don't exist, or other creatures or people or whatever. Some of you might say, there's no way I'm doing that. I just don't want to do that. Well, that's okay. But what you want to do and what you need to do might be two different things, and you want to be prepared because you're not sure. We don't always get to do exactly what we want to do, for a while anyway. We need to sometimes compromise a little bit on the path to our ultimate goals. And it should be that way. I mean, it'll help you to appreciate more the great job that when you do get to become that fine artist and you do get to paint your own vision. Think about how wonderful that's going to feel after you've helped execute a vision for somebody else, for some other company, for some other person. You're going to come at it with a very different look or take on it, and I think it'll be a better one. And it doesn't mean everybody's got to go run out and work for Pixar or run out and work for Blizzard or DreamWorks or any of these other places. But you may very well find that that's where the jobs are. I mean, a lot of the creative jobs nowadays are in the entertainment industry. All the high-paying ones, it's animation, video game concepting, movie work. There's a huge amount of work in those areas, and in fine art, it's a luxurious. I was talking to a student of mine about this a couple days ago. He was down from Canada, and he's studying with us, and we were talking a little bit about some of his goals and stuff. And I was just telling him how if you're young and you're getting ready to raise a family and get your life started and all this other good stuff, you can have aspirations to do fine art, but trying to put your kids through college, trying to pay your mortgage, trying to do all that, through fine art can sometimes be a very daunting task. It's not that it's undoable. I've seen many people, well, not many, I've seen a handful of people do it at a young age. But most people come to it after they've already, come to fine art after they've already, had a career in other more commercial areas that were a little bit better paying and more consistent paying more than anything, while they were raising their families, while they were going through that certain phase in their life where they had those obligations to take care of. And so I think that's not a bad way to look at it, is sometimes, depending on what choices you make, you might find yourself wanting or needing to go into one of these industries to just get by and make do. And it's nothing like, I mean, if making do is working at DreamWorks making six figures, I mean, that's not my take on making do. That's pretty amazing. So those are amazing jobs, and not to be underestimated as far as the growth potential as well as just the monetary compensation aspect of it. And so a lot of times I tell my younger students, be excited about maybe being a fine artist, but I'm still working at trying to be being a fine artist, and I've been doing it for 20 years, and I've had a great time doing it, and I've gotten quite a big name and all that kind of good stuff, but it is hard to to really make it, you have to make it a real big priority to make it a real money-making venture. And a lot of times you have to compromise your subject matter. You have to paint things that are more sellable. There's a lot of things that have to happen. So I never mean to be negative by any means, because like I said, I'm a big dreamer, and I will continue to dream big, and I'll continue to deliver on those dreams. But I'm also very patient, and I'll teach, and I'll create schools, and I'll do other things that are also passionate for me and also part of the process. And for time, they may take me away from my fine art aspirations, but ultimately they will strengthen them, and I will come back stronger, and I will ultimately fulfill all those things, hopefully, if I have anything to say about it, and I'll do my best. That's all I can do. That's all you can do. So right now, dream big, but anchor yourself in reality. Anchor yourself in the reality that's out there, and that way you're not going to be disappointed or overwhelmed when things pan out a certain way. You'll be a little bit more able to roll with the punches a little bit and still do good and enjoy. Just covering, that's why I talk a lot. I mean, there's not much. This stuff's pretty self-explanatory at this phase, right? I mean, I'm just getting in there and covering. Now, I don't have a head to paint, which is taking a lot of the time. Made it faster, and on the ones that I have, the male one that I have to do, it's quite a complex head at a kind of very complex angle. So I will probably need a little extra time on that one to even just knock that head in. A lot of curls, a lot of information that's just hard to do fast. Right now I'm using kind of a soft filbert. It's a synthetic Lane nickel. Doesn't really matter. I mean, a lot of people are so enamored with what does Jeff use, what kind of brushes, what kind of paint. That's not the reason I paint well, I'll tell you that right now. So if you want to go out and get exactly what I use, I mean, I can't blame you for that. I mean, I know a lot of people that really love to do that. And fundamentally it's not a problem. It's just not what people, a lot of times people think there's some magic brush or some magic paint or some magic surface or something. Everything does contribute to execution. A good surface helps, good brushes help, good paints help, but are they the ones responsible for the ultimate execution of the piece? No, they're just tools. But the tools, you don't want the tools to hinder your performance. So cheap tools a lot of times can hinder. And that can be really stupid, well, stupid, but I mean, I don't know, lame if you kind of shoot yourself in the foot over something as easy as a surface that you could easily rectify. It's one thing to not know. I mean, if somebody comes into my class and they just don't know, then they just don't know. It's not their problem, it's not their fault. It's my job to educate them so that they now have that information. But if I come in and I can't even see what they don't know because they can't get past their own materials or the stuff they're using, then we have a bigger problem, and it is hard to teach somebody. So if you're paying the monthly fee for training with me online here, you owe it to yourself to at least get good enough materials, but not chasing everything that I have, everything I. If I mentioned Lane Nichols, I mean, the Lane Nichols were some of my favorite brushes just because they were so cheap, and they were pretty decent, but they did have inadequacies in their performance as far as manufacturing, and they've just recently gotten rid of their line that was my favorite, which was their actual sable, their sables, their actual real haired, soft-haired brushes. And they've gone to a synthetic blend because of, and I'm all for it because it was, the animals that they were using were on the endangered species list or have become endangered. And it's just a lame that they can't just shave them down and do something like that. Instead, they have to actually kill the animal to make the brushes, and I'm not a big fan of that at all. So for me, switching over to some synthetics, it's not the end of the world, not a big deal. Again, I don't want to be so reliant on any one tool that if they took it away from me, I would be handicapped extremely. So I use all kinds of different brushes, and I want you to find the brush that works for you. I don't want you to just use what I say because I mentioned it. You may not like it, quite frankly. I mean, a lot of times, people do try what I use, and they just don't like it for some reason, whatever reason that is. And that's okay. I want you to make your own opinions and make your own decisions, so just keep it mellow. Keep it mellow when it comes to buying materials and trying to copy your favorite painters as far as what they use. Let's see, so we've got the figure in quite efficiently. I love to pop it with the dark, kind of like it is in the photo. It just seems like such a waste of time. Seems like such a waste of time to use your valuable time on the timer to put in a black background. It just seems like I should do that at break time or something. But I want you to see the process, and I don't want to confuse you too much. So I'll take a little time to do it. It won't be a big deal. But, time is of the essence with these things for me. So I'm trying to, and I love that. I just want to stay efficient and smooth and deliver the goods in an organized, controlled manner that's non-confusing. And I want to dispel the confusion and the mystery behind this stuff. It's, a lot of people say, why do you teach all your competition like that? Why do you groom all these people that you're going to have to compete with? And I don't see it that way, I want to see the Halcyon days. I want to see, the Cornwells, the Rockwells, the Leindeckers, the Mukas. I want to see that period come back in its full glory. And if I can be a part of that and I can help facilitate that during my lifetime, what a cool thing to do amongst other contributions. I just think it's well worth my time. And I want to be compensated for it, obviously, because I've sacrificed a huge amount of my life to do this and my own personal career. So yeah, I just don't want to give this stuff away just because I'm a philanthropic person. I'm not that philanthropic. I mean, I'm willing to do it. I love doing it, but yeah, being compensated for it is necessary to keep my enthusiasm to want to keep doing it in the future. So I appreciate you guys that are paying for this. I know you're getting a heck of a deal, on what you're paying for, but I do understand, it is what it is. Everything's expensive, but yeah, it's good. It's well worth it. It's, you're getting a Rolls-Royce education for a Hyundai price. So here we go. Let's just get in there and I want to show you the magic here. Okay, so we've got it in, more or less covered. Brushes, even though it's a soft, kind of a soft brush. Well, it's a soft brush, but it doesn't really act like one. It's kind of acting like a hybrid. There's all these car analogies. I've got hybrids, I've got Hyundais, I've got, crazy. You never know what I'm going to bring up. Could be anything. I don't even know half the time. All right, so going in and got it covered, right? That's the first goal, coverage, logical coverage, always. Whether it's a figure, whether it's a head, whether it's a landscape. It's about covering the surface and getting ready to do something magical with it. We can't get to the magic if we don't have the foundation, right? So, sometimes the foundation could take you weeks, depending on the complexity of the piece. These are small studies and not very complex, so, it might take, 30 minutes to get some closure on your lay-in, which is, when I think about some of these huge efforts I've undertaken, like whether it's a 9-foot painting with cast of thousands or something, just lots of people and subject, things and backgrounds, and, those become, monstrous, endeavors. And you really got to, kind of come into them with an incredible amount of resolve and enthusiasm, because they're long projects. So laying in on a painting like that might take me a week. So I might be just laying in stains literally for a week, and it's maddening sometimes. You just kind of have to remind yourself, you got to try to, almost get yourself psyched out. Like you're kind of, a coach is giving you a pep talk before the big race or the big competition, and you just got to get in there and get you got to pump yourself up a lot of times. A lot of times you have to be your own coach. You got to be your own, cheering section, your own cheerleader for your own work. It's sometimes hard. It's like, it's hard to be both for yourself. But sometimes you don't have that support network. Maybe the parents aren't too excited about you being an artist, and your wife's not too great, or husband or something is buckling down on you to kind of get serious with something, and this is your passion and you're really trying to make it happen, and you just don't have the support network. And then you've got to dig deep and be your own support network. And that's where you really see your own, you start developing your own character, you see your salt. What kind of character do you have? What kind of resolve when the going gets tough? And there's nobody there. Once you're succeeding, everybody's your best friend. Everybody was there for you. Everybody believed in you. Everybody, is there to say, oh, look how great you are, and I knew you could always make it. But then when you think back, you think about those same people, oh, you're taking that same class again? What are you doing? Why are you going to that school? Really? You never graduate? You never get a degree? There's all these naysayers. Everybody's out there, putting doubts in your head, and, trying to make it, oh, you're going to be a starving artist, and I can't believe that you chose that path. And, oh man, it's just maddening sometimes. And I feel for you guys. I had a very supportive upbringing, luckily, but I've had to fight my own battles, and I've had to dig deep on several occasions and really cultivate my character. And I'm very thankful for those hard periods, because they have formed and defined who I am, and helped me to reveal to myself who I am. And you don't reveal that doesn't reveal itself to you when everything's going well. You don't learn a lot about yourself when it's all roses. It's when the rubber meets the road, and it really comes down to the tough decisions and the tough areas of life that you see whether you have the resolve to be a true professional, a true person that can rise above. And I wish you guys all the best, in that regards, because I've been there and I've done it and I've fought and I will continue to do it. And you never know what life's going to dish out to you. But art will always be there for you, and it can be an anchor for you during very difficult times, and it can really get you through some rocky ones, and it'll always be there for you. So rest assured that you'll get out of it what you put into it, and that art is just a wonderful anchor for us. All right, so I'm going in, philosophizing as usual, filling in my little back pose here of this piece of Roman or Greek statuary. I'm not sure which one it is, but nice. There's some nice subtleties on it. Now these are the little two dimples of the sacrum, top of the gluteus. So you have the gluteal cleft here. Well, it's a gluteal, not cleft. This is like the little tailbone area where the sacrum enters the split in the rear. And we want to kind of reiterate that a little bit. And then if we go up like a triangle, you'll see, a little like kind of dimple shape over here. It's actually, yeah. So you'll see a little kind of tone change here. And this is the sacral area where there's a ligament, really strong ligament down there that kind of fuses at the base of the spine. And then you've got the lumbar vertebrae coming down. Just be aware. Be aware of these little intertwining musculature and bone protrusions that exist around the body. Bone protrusions are important because we can palpitate them, which means we can feel them at the surface. And they're navigation points from which we venture off of with our anatomical knowledge. If we can find a little bump somewhere and say, okay, through the process of elimination from what I know about the body, what could be in that area? And then you come up with, like, say, a couple options. And then you narrow it down, and then through logic, you say, well, it has to be that. Nothing else could be there. Well, once you understand that, then you can cross-reference what you know about that from drawings you've done out of books, through classes you've taken on anatomy and things of that sort. Then you can start to make an educated decision on what you want to do with that shape. Do you want to keep it the same? Do you want to make it stronger? Do you want to make it straighter? Do you want to make it more curved? Do you want to push the value on it? Do you want to play the value down on it? What do you want to do? Well, you now have an educated decision. You're making an educated decision. If you don't know what it is, then you're going to make a guess. And the guess is going to be based on observation and not on knowledge. And the chance of getting a superior product will be quickly diminished to luck, or maybe you might get one. But the chances are at that point, probably not. So, that was a bit of a tangency, but all this stuff is pertinent. It's just me finding little anecdotes and little clever ways, hopefully, to make connections with you. Since we're not really meeting each other on a daily basis, but we get to meet ourselves in this video, and I verbalize well, I think, you should get to know me pretty well just by how I banter in these videos. I've always worn my heart on my sleeve, so it's not very difficult to tell who I am or what I believe in or where my stance is on stuff. I'm pretty simple that way and pretty straightforward, and I like that about myself. Okay. Painting against the form, it's a little counterintuitive, but an interesting way to kind of get highlights and stuff is to wedge along and leave the highlight by wedging in from either side, kind of, again, cutting in from this side, cutting in from this side, and leaving a hot spot. I don't see that happening on there, but I have used that technique many times in many different situations and with great success. So I'm drawing upon an aesthetic solution to a difficult problem that I've learned from other situations, and now I can recall it and apply it to help me get through this situation. That is good recall. That is what you're trying to cultivate, the ability to recall solutions that you've made in other problems, and so that you can help rectify this problem more efficiently. Interesting. He says, yeah, we've got some neat edges happening. I'm using a small flat, and you can use this brush very effectively to do chisel strokes like I'm doing, which means it lays down kind of a wedge shape, chisel shape, and that chisel shape I can use to cut and carve highlights, halftones, any number of things. So it's nice to have some flats in your quiver of brushes options, small, mid-size. You always want to have a range of both soft and hard brushes, bristles and sables. And you don't know which ones you're going to draw upon. Sometimes you may only use one or two of them. Sometimes you only maybe use one. I've sometimes been in the zone and had a good brush, and I've just literally painted the whole thing with one brush. Not to be totally advised, but sometimes if it's working, if it's not broke, why fix it? If the brush is giving you what you want and it doesn't seem to be a problem, you shouldn't change brushes just because people have told you to, or that your teacher always said you should be moving around using lots of brushes. In general, that's a pretty good rule of thumb. Yeah, you usually use a variety of brushes for different aspects of your painting, but if you have really good brushmanship, meaning the way you handle your brush, the way you wield it, you can sometimes get a lot more out of a brush than what it was designed to give you because of how you twist it, turn it, push it, pull it. And so sometimes you can get, 5 brushes out of one brush just by creative use of how you twist and turn it as you're navigating your form. And that's when you can literally minimize the amount of brushes you use and the amount of brushes you need. But I'm never quite sure which brushes those are going to be. So I always have a very healthy amount of brushes out when I go to attack a painting. And that term attack a painting is quite telling. I don't dilly-dally around a painting. I attack a painting. I go at it, and it's like almost like it's a WWF or a MMA cage match. I'm going in there and really going for it, and I'm going to take out all the stops, and I'm going to hammer that thing into a good painting, doing whatever it takes at my disposal, brush-wise, technique-wise, and I'm going to make it happen. I'm going to bring it up to a nice effort, and every time I come to the easel, that would be my mode of operation, my battle cry, whatever you want to call it. That's what I'm trying to do. So I might, again, borrow a bunch of this. I'm smoothing it out. I'm accomplishing 2 things. I'm smoothing it out, and then I'm dumping it back into my painting to re-accentuate the core. Smart painting, I think. I'm not just constantly reloading and dumping. I'm utilizing. A lot of times I say, the painting kind of occurs on the painting in front of you. That's where your painting really happens. Down here on the palette, everything always looks good. Everything looks cool. Everything looks nice. But up here is where it matters, especially when we get into color. The color harmonies on the surface are all that matter because ultimately, no one's going to see your palette. They're going to see your finished painting, and they're either going to like it or they're not going to like it. And that's about the way it goes. I mean, there is no in between. So, ultimately, that's my mixing surface, the actual painting itself, not the palette. The palette suffices to mix the best color I can, but the light's usually slightly different on it. You're looking at other colors on that aren't necessarily the same as where you're going to be putting the color note on your painting. So although it looks really warm on your palette, you may put it on your painting and it may look really cool because there's a different combinations of colors on your painting that you're going to end up putting the stroke next to or around. That's going to affect greatly whether it's considered warm or cool, whether it's considered bright or dull, all those things. So we can't really tell when it's just on the actual palette that we're mixing on, what we really even have. That can be sometimes very frustrating for newer painters. That bridge that gap between what they see that they're mixing and how it actually operates on the surface of their painting, which can be entirely 2 different things. That's why it's very difficult for me to always buy into these certain premises. Oh, just paint what you see and everything will be fine. Well, that's harder than it sounds, and because there's many factors that don't really factor in all that straightforward. And then we have to deal with that. And they don't really tell you how to deal with that. They just kind of say, hey, paint it right. And it sounds all good. I mean, in a perfect world, that sounds great. It also sounds kind of like a cop-out to me. It's like, it's too hard to explain really how it actually works. So let's just dumb it down and say, hey, just paint it the way you see it and everything will be good. Well, doesn't that just sound all peachy? It does, but it doesn't work. And when it doesn't work, you're kind of screwed. You don't know what to do. And no one's there to tell you what to do. And the book doesn't tell you what to do because all it did is tell you to paint it the right way the first time. So you can see I have a little bit of, not angst about that, but somewhat perplexed by, when I read that. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I think we're going to be able to get this one done in 45 minutes, which is good. It's not a big deal, but I'm just, again, I'm not looking to make these any longer than I need to. I just want to get them done in a very orderly manner so I can continue laying down these tutorials for you. Going in, reestablishing some of my darks to really get that to pop. It's amazing, it's so beautiful. Burnt umber and white, isn't it? I mean, look at how that reads. Just elegant, just pretty and simple and just nice. I love it. Love it, love it, love it. Probably my, there's something just really charming about a simple monochrome that just sings. They're just really, really unpretentious and sweet. Now I color like the next person, but don't let color blind you. Some people are so enamored, it's like the sirens or something. It's like once they get under your skin, you can't get rid of them. There's such a strong pull, and you've just got to be really careful that they don't get in there and mess with you too much. You want to balance that with really good monochrome efforts in both charcoal and graphite, and go back to painting and then go back to drawing, and spend a couple months on heavy drawing and then go back to painting and do some monochromes while you're doing that. And just jump around, but jump around with consistency and focus. Don't jump around erratically, like schizophrenically. Try to jump around with a lot of just resolve and ability. That comes with time. I'm going to teach you how to do that. Teach you how to navigate. Good stuff. Good stuff, Maynard. Really good. Just kind of getting in and working on some of the drapery. Again, it's not really about that, but it's a foil object for the figure, and if it looks really half done, like really half baked, the viewer's going to read that and think that you just gave up or didn't care, and that's going to drop the overall continuity and consistency of the piece. So I know some of those aren't the funnest things. Sometimes I'll put in that stuff first because it's not that fun, and I think later in the painting, after I've been painting for a couple hours, I'm going to be kind of spent, and I'm not going to want to take the time to put in the drapery, that finessed, or the base of the sculpture or something, and I want to get that in early so that I have it in there, and I think that's the smart way to go. Okay, just working over here, trying to find a new place to create a light puddle, spinning my brush, trying to get any of the remnants out of it, and there is some up there in the ferrule, so I've gotten that out now. I come in and I say, okay, I'm kind of coming up to my bright hot spots. Look at that. Once you put that in, wow. All the values now have a different meaning. Once you get that light in, the lightest light, now all of a sudden, it's a whole different ball game. So what has to happen then? All the painting has to come up to match that. So I'm now putting on my upper level, so I need to clean. I'm going to go back to that small flat, because that round that I was just using was putting down the paint strokes not in quite the manner that I was hoping or wanted, and I was able to recognize that very quickly and reassess what tool I wanted to use. Part of it's just this white that I'm using is incredibly gooey, for lack of a better technical term. So it's got a lot of linseed in it. It's a newer brand. Why am I using it in the middle of a video? My wife would probably say that just because that's exactly how I am. I'm always experimenting in the worst possible times. It's not a bad white. It's just really got a lot of linseed in it. But it's okay. What it mostly will do is just challenge you a little bit to work and focus at a greater level, because it's challenging you a little bit in that regard. And that's not always a bad thing. Now down along the spine, we go in and out of lighter passages. Again, I don't want to put pinstriping down the back, so I'm going to vary the width and the intensity with which I pull these little strokes, and try to start getting that upper level of finish of rendering that I think the piece needs, just to help it out a little bit. I mean, ideally, these highlights, lighter pass would be done about, let this thing sit for 6-7 hours, 8 hours, I don't know, while it's setting up a little bit, and then come in and while it's just at the right consistency, maybe the white set up a little bit on your palette, the white on all the other colors on the painting have set up a little bit, and now you're able to go in with it not being so viscous and gooey and moving around on you so much. That would be the ideal, but we never get to do ideal. We know that. Ideal's fantasy land. You know, that doesn't exist really. I mean, occasionally you can set up everything perfectly and nothing bugs you and no phones ring and no kids are screaming and no cats and animals are bugging you and geez, I can go on for hours. But normally there's all kinds of distractions, mental distractions, little distractions that we have to contend with as we go to execute these, even these little studies like this. What do we do? Have a meltdown every time something doesn't work in our favor? I hope not. How chiseled you want to make this is up to you. It's a plaster cast. I don't want to start looking too odd. Although I like that look a lot. I'm very partial to really nicely chiseled paint strokes. Thicker paint strokes, chiseled paint strokes, just strokes that have a beautiful calligraphy in and of themselves. But there is such thing as too much, and you want to constantly skirt along respectfully. And only you, again, it's an aesthetic, it's a look. So we have to key ourselves in by looking at other good painters, being around good painters. That's what I'm going to be for you. I'm an anchor for you. You're leasing my eyeballs until yours see like mine. That could be a year, that could be 2 years, that could be 5 years. We don't know. But you're leasing them. You're renting them until your eyes are really good. It's a good way to think of it. How you layer paint is like doing surgery, I imagine. I'm not a surgeon, but I can imagine. It's just perfect layering, perfect pressure sensitivity, building up, cutting just deep enough, doing this, doing that. It's really about having foresight. I was really good at chess as a kid, a young kid, and I was good at seeing ahead. And I think I was so good at chess because I possessed the similar concept that what art requires, the ability to visualize way ahead of where you're at so that you can layer properly, factoring in parts of the equation that haven't even happened yet. And that's an interesting way to work. It's very difficult for some people. But it doesn't mean everyone should drop everything and start playing chess. But chess requires that ability because otherwise your opponent sneaks up with you and hits you with a move that you didn't see and it's checkmate. So you have to constantly be thinking, okay, if he does this and then does that, then that's going to happen, then I'm going to move that, and then that's going to counter that, and that's going to cause this. And the better you are at being able to see those moves ahead of time, the better you are at countering the other person's move as well as building your own strategy towards a successful win. And in art, it's very similar. You're kind of assessing how you're going to stack this painting up to have a successful win, a successful painting. And a lot of times it comes down to foresight and the ability to premeditate your moves. And that is something that it's very hard to teach people. But I very seldom ever see that really mentioned in almost any book on drawing or painting. It's just not really that often that people talk in those terms. So maybe I'll be one of the first ones to kind of start doing that. I don't know. But I do think it's important. And it's played a big role in my success and my speed, the speed at which I can efficiently paint. You can see how fast I paint and how efficiently. And that's due to that fact. And I do see a lot of painters out there right now that struggle greatly with their efficiency, even high-end professionals that I know, that I run into. And given 100 or 200 hours, they'll do something great. Give them 40 minutes or an hour and not so good. Yeah, give them 40 minutes, an hour and not so good. So it's not to belittle, or it's not like everybody needs to be this race car painter, that just can this V8 type go kind of mentality. But I do think especially for education, people's attention spans are limited. You can't be painting a painting like this that takes 30 hours for you to see benefit or see the point of. You would all want to go run screaming out of the room. And so for me, I think that attention, is best about an hour, maybe 40 minutes to an hour of demonstration. is adequate to get the point across and get the viewer to understand what it is that the goal of this particular exercise is. I'm just going over, removing some of those little sculptural wedge strokes I did with the small flat because I don't want it to look too wood carved. I love the wood carved look. I love it look like someone carved it out of literally a piece of wood. But there's a time and place for that, and too much of anything is not a good thing. So you want to use restraint. You want to use minimalist approach sometimes. Sometimes less is more. More is not always more. So we know that from other things. And you haven't seen me using my fingers as much as I usually do. No particular reason. Just haven't been doing it. Yeah, very nice, very nice. Just very pleasant to look at. Definitely a nice little cast painting. And only 40 minutes or 45 minutes. So, you know, we made quick work of this one. I'm very happy to say, because I want to stay on target. And these are long shooting days. Some of these are running 10 hours or so, you know, shooting on a day. And that's a long time with very little breaks in between to keep the flow and the mojo going. But again, that's what you work so hard for. I've worked so many years so that I can sit and paint for 10 hours. I don't want to do it every day, but I can. And when called upon to do it, I can come in and perform for 10 hours and still do high-end work all the way through with very little mistakes. That's again, the sign of a true consummate professional, in my opinion. My dad exemplifies that to the highest level. He's a virtuoso executor at the highest level all the time. He instilled that through observation. I watched him do that my whole life, and through tough periods, and a huge amount of respect for him on that front. Any professional, anybody that does this day in and day out at a high level, you just have to take your hat off and respect them. That's like Fretchen said, you know, when you find yourself in the presence of great art, take your hat off. You know, just respect it. No matter what, whether it's tight, loose, this, that, it doesn't matter. Just respect it. Okay, just kind of getting these soft edges, these little edges that are sharp, even though they're not much, but I don't want this edge here coming in front of this. So, you know, you want to make sure your background stays behind the object you're painting and doesn't become too obnoxious, too sharp, too this, too that, too bright, too colorful. You want to keep it really mellow, you know, and so soft edges recede generally. So you want to kind of keep that in mind when you're going in to do that, you know, that kind of stuff. I'm gonna get my I've got 1 minute left. No panic. About one and a half minutes. So now I think I'm going to come down the exterior here and see if I can dance along the form here, get some variety in there. Ever so slightly looking at whether I want it a firm edge, a soft edge around this perimeter. I don't want it the same everywhere. That's all I know. All I know is I don't want it cut out like it was frisketed. And frisket's an old airbrush term for when you cut out this frisket and you airbrush, it leaves this razor sharp edge around everything and it looks really cheesy. Cheesy also meaning just bad, unprofessional, not good. I know my slang is probably throwing everybody off, but it'll help add color to the program, I guess. Maybe keep you from getting too bored. Never know what's going to come out of my mouth next. It's my way of keeping you engaged. Hope it's working. Okay, just trying to, you know, again, I'll notice some little edge that seems to be jumping a little too much or popping a little too much. I mean, again, I could hyper obsess about all these edges, for a long time, but we're not going to do that. You can do that. That's you've got plenty of time. So again, I hope you spend about an hour to 2 hours, maybe 3 hours on this, whatever it takes. And just because I did it in 40, it's not a competition. I should be able to do it faster than you, I would imagine. I've got huge amounts of mileage probably over you. So don't race me and don't try to keep up with me. Just be inspired and excited and present. And again, all these great things we talk about, we'll continue to talk about them because I want them to become habitual. I want them to become a way of thinking and a way of attacking creative problems from here on out, so that you have the ability to solve any problem that is presented in front of you, whether it's figure, whether it's still life, whether it's landscape, whether it's narrative, whether it's whatever it is, or a hybrid of all those things. You will have the knowledge to attack it and to succeed, and we're going to teach you to think for yourself. All right, good lesson. See you soon.